Hello, and welcome to Plugin Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. I feel like my mic is lower than normal. Okay. Last time on Plugin Along, we made as many MinstrelBuff plugin themes as possible have a variable size to accommodate more than 3 anthems. And today I want to move some code around so that only the buff window class makes changes to the buff window object. Because right now there's a lot of stuff happening in the main class to affect the buff window, and it bothers me. And so I'm hoping we can kind of clean things up a little, make just the buff window responsible for doing buff window stuff. So, as always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions. And in the meantime, let me go ahead and make sure I've got the window showing. All right, there we go. So here we are in the 21st hall, a lovely place that, among other things, doesn't have any rain. It's great. So what are we looking at? If we come to the caret menu, System, Plugin Manager, we can see right now there's only one plugin installed. It's MinstrelBuff. It is this window here, and if you are playing a Minstrel in Lord of the Rings Online, as I often do, it is very handy for telling you how many ballads you have active, and also which of your anthems are active. We've been playing around with accommodating more than 3 anthems, even in this sort of only 3 anthem theme that we've got going on here. But this is, in the code, the buff window. And what I'd like to do is see, is it possible for the buff window to control all the buff window stuff? All right, let's first take a quick sidestep over to our source control and see, do we have any unsaved changes going on? We do not. And also, we have been lax about taking our named branch and merging it back into our develop. So let's go ahead and actually do that. I'm going to go ahead and do a git flow finish feature. There we go. Working tree does contain changes. Whoops. Debug. Okay, let me try that again. Repository, git flow, finish feature. And the way this works is it's just going to take that feature, merge it back into the develop branch, and then clean up that side branch that we were working on. And this is useful, especially if you have multiple people working on the same project, but even if you are just working on multiple features, it's very useful there to have a different branch for each thing you're working on. So right now we're on the develop branch. Awesome. And it's time to go ahead and start a new feature. And that's going to be refactor buff window code. I don't know. Buff window in main. There we go. That's what we're working on. We're going to start that feature. And why is that useful? Well, again, it's the branching off point where we start mucking with these things. And so if there's ever a point where we want to come back and do something else, then this is the split point that we just say, okay, come back to that split point and then start doing something else. And again, if there were multiple people working on the MinstrelBuff plugin, then they could be doing their own side branch and we wouldn't be stepping on each other's toes. I'm going to go ahead and push these changes that I've just made. Well, that's embarrassing. Did I forget to fast forward my develop? It is quite possible. Now, I think I just forgot to push my develop. Okay. Now we'll just jump back over to the other branch. Awesome. And then we want those debug flags to be back. The show debug options equals true. So we'll just unstash that change. All right, we're ready to go. Now, is that necessary if you just want to make a plugin? No. But adding this little bit of overhead on top of it can really help with some of those basic gotchas of plugin or even just software in general, software development, which is the, everything was working this morning and then I did 17 things and now something is not working. And I'm not sure which one of those 17 things broke it. And I'm also not sure which things I did because it's been a long day. And so source control lets you sort of handle both of those things. You can just go back to this morning, plain and simple, or you can see what exactly did change between this morning and now. So highly recommended even for small projects like this. Now I'm going to pull up Visual Studio Code, and just a moment. Okay, so I'm using Visual Studio Code. You don't have to use Visual Studio Code, but it does make available the LOTRO API extension, which I highly recommend if you're working with LOTRO plugins. Excellent. Thanks, Lunar Water, for contributing that to the community. Okay, so what do we have here? Specifically, well, let's pop into what to do. I'm going to make up new things. Main.lua mucks about in buff windows internals more than we would like. Fix that, question mark? So that's sort of the guiding star. That's what we're looking at. So we're looking at two things. We're looking at main.lua and we're looking at buffwindow.lua, which is to say buff window should, in our ideal world as the buff window class, should be responsible for everything buff window related. And if anything, main should just say, hey, please turn yourself on, please turn yourself off, please do whatever. But buff window should do the rest of it. But what actually happens is that self.buffWindow, I'm guessing, gets called a lot. We have 28 references, and that's a lot. So we're going to step through main and see which of those things do we think we can kind of slide on over. Specifically, let's see, show anthem. Specifically, I'm thinking the refresh effect display function, which is all about doing stuff in the buff window. So buff window set serious business, buff window hide anthem, buff window show effect, show anthem, show anthem, show anthem border, ballot ended, hide effect, hide anthem border. That's a lot of stuff. So the real question is, what in this function is looking at stuff in the main class? Because we have MinstrelBuff main. MinstrelBuff main has some class variables. What of these are needed for that function? So we're going to come on back to refresh effect display. Ideally, all of this goes in the buff window because it's all about doing that, except where it isn't. Do we still have? Let's see. Okay. So refresh effect display. Where does that get called from? It gets called to start in show window. Whenever we add an effect, whenever we remove an effect, whenever the effects are cleared, although I've never seen this function getting called, but just in case it does, we refresh that effects display. We're also have been adding some custom handlers before we just redo everything that are handling war speech and melodic interlude. So that's handy. We don't have to worry about those things, except these are also dealing with buff window. Once upon a time, I was trying to do some code changes that eliminated the need to recalculate the entire effects display. And I'm thinking about maybe it's better to go down that route instead. So now I'm just thinking to myself, what is good in life? that is my eventual goal, is to do that. So you know what? I'm gonna pause for a moment. Once upon a time, I had a branch, reworking effect list processing, and I want to take a look and see what was going on in there. And more importantly, what did I think was wrong? Okay, lots of little pieces. I definitely was thinking even then about breaking the logic up, but is that what's happening here? So we had some functions for anthem. Yeah, shifting ballads over, adding a ballad, removing a ballad, and same thing for anthems. Feels a shame to lose all that good work. Yeah, okay. So, the problem with the refresh effect display, and I don't know how much of a problem this is from an actual CPU cycles performance type thing, and how much of it just annoys me. But every time an effect is added or removed in game, and that can happen a lot in complicated combats, this refresh effect display is getting called, and that is re-looking at every effect in the list, and that's not great. So what I'm interested in is, let's dig into refresh effect display's logic a little bit. So the first thing we're doing, and let's go ahead and do some comments. Copy each effect into a list. Well, into what is that? Dictionary that will be sorted by start time. But don't bother continuing if we found a serious business and care about that. And serious business is an effect that happens, holy moly. And you can tell it's that time of day when the sun is just in the wrong position. Serious business is that effect that happens during festivals, in certain festival areas, and kind of by definition, you just don't care about combat during serious business. The one thing I remember specifically I made this for was during the shrew stomping event, you would be in combat with shrews. They would aggro on you because they're rabid. And so my buff window that only shows up when I'm in combat would just keep on flashing on and off and on and off and on and off. So we check for serious business. If serious business is in effect, we just don't want to care about that. Oh, thank you. Okay, and then here we go ahead, sort by start time. Now this is interesting because I think the start time is incomplete. It assumes everything has the same duration, or everything of a type. All anthems have the same duration, which isn't true. Anthems from another minstrel will quite likely take more or less time. That's okay. Okay, so check for serious business. Pass serious business state onto the buff window. Okay, is anthem fixed? What does is anthem fixed mean? And also, why are we checking what is probably a Boolean against another Boolean? All right, get fixed anthem positions. All right. Fixed anthems. Okay. What does that look like if we go to theme window? Fixed anthems. Okay, if true, anthems have fixed positions. Order is set in minstrelfix.lua for all themes the same. Okay. Now, fixed anthems have their own problems that we haven't gotten to yet, because they do rely on a very outdated way of looking at anthems in Lord of the Rings Online. That's okay. Okay, so this function name, just looking at it, doesn't make me think it's getting a Boolean. I recommend, by convention, if you have a yes/no state, do something like is fixed anthem positions. Yes or no, is it? Instead of just get fixed anthem positions, which makes me think we're getting a list of anthem positions that are fixed, which is totally different. So that's just a thing. In fact, let's just fix that. Get is fixed anthem positions. And then we can see the local variable is called is anthem fixed, which is one of those things. Like if you're calling a function called get is fixed anthem positions, just name the variable is fixed anthem positions. You know, we don't have a character shortage here. It feels like these should have the same name. Either the function name should get shorter or the variable name should get longer. But we're only using it in one place. Oh no, 2 places. 3. Ah, well. Okay, so if the positions are fixed, and this is incorrect logic, then, okay. In a fixed position, we're just hiding all of those anthems. And again, this is in the buff window, which hide all fixed anthems in buff window. Anthems that are on will be changed back to visible. Okay. So we can see that this is an outdated comment. We don't need that anymore. But they used to just be grabbing the effect from the effect list. Now they're grabbing it from the sorted effects. Okay. Get a name for each of the effects in the sorted list. So notice we copied things off and we sorted things off. Instead of checking if originally if there were valid ballad effects or valid anthem effects, we just saved everything off and now we're going back through. So if you have 100 different debuffs on you from some really terrible instance boss, then we've copied all of those off and now only 3 to 6 things matter, which is part of the why I keep coming back to this logic and wanting to fix it. Instead of just saving off ballads, saving off anthems, those seem to be the only things we care about. So if we search for is, we have is valid ballad, is valid anthem. And it looks like we'll call each of those once. So if I were doing partial fixes, I would say just for each effect, check to see if it's a valid ballad or a valid anthem. Save them off to a ballad list or an anthem list. We don't need to have all of the effects in one list. But I think the thing of going through every effect every time is unnecessary anyway. Okay, so if the effect is a ballad, show it. in the next ballad location. Okay. If the effect, nope, if the theme shows anthems, and then if the theme is in fixed anthem fixed mode, turn on the location of that anthem. If the theme is in anthem fixed mode, and the effect is an anthem, then turn on the location of that anthem. And then the theme isn't in anthem fixed mode, show the anthem in chronological order. I think we're kind of going to call that reverse? Yeah, no, chronological order. Okay. That's the core of the logic. Cool. Comments are great. As long as they're explaining what you're doing and not like the little minutia of how you're doing, unless that's really complicated. Okay, this was a way of tracking whether ballads ended or not. The only way to go from, there are only two ways to go from having ballads to not having ballads. Be out of combat for 9 seconds, asterisk, or use a coda. Now, I'm curious if using a coda results in any sort of an effect. Well, I got Vigor of the Minstrel. That's something. Let's see. Okay. So the answer is maybe. Using a coda might give an effect. Let's see. I know the MinstrelBuff has ideas about how to detect codas, but I also think it might not have been complete. I'm going to actually search for that for a minute. Oh, self coda was played. Cool. How do we set that? Okay, coda skill reset time changed. Awesome. Well, I'm curious. Turbine.shell.writeLine. Does it work? Let's go ahead and unload and reload. Oh, we're going to have to go ahead and switch to a healing mode. Good. Coda skills reset times changed. Okay, so we are able to detect when a coda is played. Excellent. For places where that is cared about, which is currently hiding all anthem borders, okay. What's the purpose of those anthem borders, do we think? I never did figure that out. Anthem borders. Well, we have anthem effect border setting visible to false. Cool. Show anthem border. When do we do that? Why do we do that? Effect border only works with fixed anthems. Ah. Looks like I read that logic backwards. So what's the purpose of the fixed border? Just curious. If we come on in here, is it just to make it more obvious that we have something? It's very interesting because I used the coda, the borders went off, but then they came back on again because we still had the anthems. I wonder if, once upon a time, anthems were discharged when you used the coda. And so you used your ballads, you used the anthems, whatever anthems were active when you used your coda, fired off and made the coda bigger, better, whatever, but then the anthems went away. And in that case, I guess I could see why those borders are being turned off for coda. But anthems have a fixed time now in this iteration of LOTRO. So, interesting. All right, I'm going to put a to-do item. Fixed anthems. Borders seem neat, but current code tries to turn them off after a coda, but anthems do not end after a coda. And even if they did, it feels like we should just be turning them off when we turn everything off. I don't know. So they come right back. Okay, I'm not sure what's up with that. I'm going to put a pin in it. Come back later. Okay, what else do we have? If there are fewer... Wait, if it's less than or equal to 3. That's the next place. Ah, this numbering thing. Then 3 ballads showing. Turn off extra ballad spaces so they aren't visible. And then if a coda was played, turn off any fixed theme anthem borders. Note, not sure why we do this. Okay. Finally, we have an update background. This was something that we put into place last time. I didn't comment it. I should have. That was bad on me. If this is a non-fixed anthem theme, resize to account for more than 4 anthems. 3 anthems. All right. And then same thing. It was a non-fixed theme. Hide extra anthem positions. Let's be consistent in our comments. Turn off extra anthem spaces. All right, we have get party stuff. Whose was that? I don't know. I'm not sure that's a useful thing to keep right here. All right, so we have member count, name, morale, effects. I think we're gonna go ahead and kill that. Also, this debug table function, while it could be very useful, doesn't belong here. Sometimes classes will have a function, I should say plugins will have a functions file. Do we have something like that? No, let's go ahead and add one. So I'm going to collapse down these two folders here, and then new file, general functions dot blah. Okay, we're going to go ahead and just bring this here. And main can go ahead and include that. Import MinstrelBuff Windows general functions. Okay. So anytime we want the debug table class, in fact, I'm not sure why it's commented. It might not work. But we'll just leave it commented since nothing is currently using it. Okay. So that's a start. It's just getting a sense of what is this function doing. But ultimately, the core logic of this function cares about anthems and ballads, nothing else. And then once we've set up all of our anthems and ballads, we'll go ahead and do something if all of the ballads are gone. We'll go ahead and do something with ballad stuff, do something with anthem stuff, do something with the window itself. But it's all ballads and anthems all the way down. So if that's the case, let's come on back to that idea of having buff window. Instead of explicitly placing these effects, let's give them to buff window and have it slot them in itself as a way of starting to convert this over so that we don't need to call it against every effect, just the effects that we care about. I think. Is that a reasonable thing to do? It might be. So to do that, we'll need to support. Oh, hello, Fairthin. You're not too late. We're going to go here for a little while. I'm just musing about this core logic of MinstrelBuff, coming back, circling back around on whether it's time to fix this up. You know, let's say that it is time for that. Every minute you don't watch the stream, Fairthin, is too late. Well, that's very kind of you. I'm glad to have you here. Okay, we've done some commenting of this, and that's good, but it's going to make merging harder. So, a couple of things here. I had the idea of renaming this function. Awesome. I had lots of comments. I moved this debug away. All of that is great, but it's in the way of bringing those changes we had forward. So let's go ahead and stash this. So it's the refactor initial comments and stuff. Your stashes don't have to be sensibly named. And then we have the rework effect list processing in work. Okay, so that stash is going to be useful. Let's go ahead and merge the rework effect list processing. I mean, I say merge. Let's oh yes, okay, stash. Refactor in work. Let's come on over to the rework effects list processing. And let's try to bring it up to date. This was last changed at the end of May. Oh, Fairthen says, thanks for fixing the background window bug I reported. Thumbs up. Background window. Which one was that? Was that the one where... oh, yes, the report on Twitter. Yes, that was excellent. Thank you. It was a great report. I was able to reproduce it, and that made it much easier to fix it. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to merge the develop branch into rework effect processing. This merge will require manual conflict resolution. Let's see how bad it is. Not too bad, actually. Okay, so you can do merges within fork. You can also use external merge resolution. I'm very used to beyond compare. I'm actually going to set that up if I can. Let's see, file, preferences. All right, merge tool. Let's do beyond compare, external diff, beyond compare. Great. So, one of the nice things about beyond compare is this next conflict. Not every difference is a problem. And I'm thinking we just want everything on the left side there. So we just want the develop. Okay. All right, to do. My goodness, there could be all sorts of differences. Let's go ahead and just take both of them. And I'm going to do that by isolating the stuff on the left and taking that. And then I've isolated stuff on the right, so we're going to take that. And then both of them should appear in the final merge file. Awesome. And there's probably going to be some duplication. We'll sort that out. It's human readable stuff. All right, buff window. Oh my goodness, there's probably a lot of problems here. Okay, next war speech time place there. Next ballad effect place, next anthem effect place. Yeah, we want both of those. So for this, I would like both. Can I do that? Take left then right. Great. So that gives us both the war speech and the other stuff. All right, is there another conflict? There is not. Excellent. Those two were just so close together. The merge tool could not decide which one was authoritative. All right, we're going to save that. General functions, completely new. That's great. Main. Oh wait, is it new? Why is that still there? I'm going to delete that. There we go. All right, MinstrelBuff code workspace. Again, I think this is just going to be all stuff we want to take the newest version of that. Yep. So, only take the one from, today and not the one from June. All right, we can see that we did we named things a little differently, and we had some extra white space. What is different? It's like a tab instead of a space or something? I'm not sure. But the meaningful thing here is we did do an effects cleared callback over there. As opposed, oh, I see. Let's go ahead and align that. Okay, I would say it is what is going on? Oh, I see. That is confusing it. No. Okay. I'm fine with that. We're going to go ahead and take the left. We could go ahead and keep that commented out one. That's fine. Oh, those are the only conflicts. Awesome. Well, that wasn't actually too bad. So whenever you are using a tool like this and you had to do some manual resolutions, there's always the chance for errors. And so you get should get an automatically generated message that says, here are the files that some human with their squishy eyeballs had to look at and decide what's better, the one old one or another old one. So that's what's been generated here. We're going to go ahead and commit those. And we'll go ahead and push out that commit, since at least the merge itself should be fine. Okay, so in this to-do file, we had thoughts on where we were. And we claimed to have something that works. The redhead has pointed out, as a reminder to anyone watching, if you care about the Legendary Item Reward track, then you do only have 14 days, 19 hours, to go ahead and get to part 25, the the banner of Gil-galad housing item, the incomparable coffer of the Dancing Hobbit with Dance something, Dance 3, Dance 4. At 75, there is the Azog's sword, sort of Azog cosmetic weapon. And finally at 100, there's the legendary coffer of the mountaineering donkey. So, don't worry, you only have 14 days left for those this track specific rewards. They may come back at a future reward track, but probably not the next reward track. It'll probably have different things. And there's no guarantee that they will come back. There's just the likelihood that they'll be recycled sometime in the future. Okay. So we had something that we thought worked. Let's actually unload and load this thing and see, okay, does it work? Awesome. Fantastic. Well, we have something that seems to work. I agree. Let's come on into main here and figure out what's going on. So we have effect added. And we have commented out this refresh effect display. And it looks like we're using, whenever an effect is added, we're using ballad added. Whenever it's removed, we're using ballad removed. Now, the one thing that makes me curious is sound in chat. It says, really cool stream. Thank you. You have a curious question. How many developers are you on LOTRO? So, first of all, I am just a fan of the game, and I enjoy writing plugins for the game. But I am not an SSG employee, so I don't have any inside information in what's going on at the company. As far as me as a developer of plugins, there are dozens of active plugin developers, I think, in the LOTRO community. Farathan, you made so many new things working this plugin, I can't count anymore. Don't worry, I am breaking things also, Farathan. So Sound, if your question is how many people make plugins for LOTRO, the answer is many, and I would refer you over to the LOTRO interface page. So you can just come on over to your favorite browser and or search engine, and that is lotrointerface.com. And you can actually look at a new and updated list over here and get a sense of which plugins, and therefore which plugin developers, are a little bit more active. You can also go into the downloads and kind of get a sense there as well. So if I go to the other, and I just search by last updated, we can see that Agartha, Galahad, Garen, Thorolor, Hannah95, Loiki, and others have been doing stuff in the last few months. Oh, hey, it's me. So, just all of these updates have happened, let's see, starting here, all these updates have happened in the last year. And so there's definitely people who are active even right now. If the question is how many developers there are at Standing Stone Games who make Lord of the Rings Online, that I don't know. I have heard the answer is few, as in not hundreds or thousands, but probably tens or dozens, but I have no knowledge of specifics. Oh, Arthur says author portal shows all of them. It shows what I know. I don't even know how to find that. Author portals. Oh, cool. Does it show when they last updated something? So, obviously, there's lots of accounts here over at LOTRO Interface. So Agartha points out there are hundreds of developers and plugins on LOTRO Interface, and lots of plugins haven't been touched in years, but lots of plugins still work because Standing Stone Games, for whatever faults you might attribute to them, seem to have been pretty cautious about breaking plugins over the years. So a plugin from 5 or 10 or 15, well, maybe not 15 years ago, but a plugin from 5 or 10 years ago might stand a very good chance of working, or with just some small tweaks, still work. Yes, just because a plugin hasn't been updated in a while doesn't mean it doesn't work. And there are some plugins, I want to say, that people use actively that are in the outdated section of the download section. Let's see, do we have an outdated LOTRO interfaces? Yeah, sure. So if I search, Buff Bars is in outdated and 2/3 of a million downloads. So take that as you will. Now, some of these, like Travel Window is very popular, but has been re-released as Travel Window 2 by someone who is more actively maintaining it. So that's something to look out for. If we searched for Travel Window, we're going to find a bunch of patches, but specifically, and if we, again, sort by date, we'll find Travel Window 2 by Hyos has been updated as recently as a couple of months ago, whereas the original Travel Window was last updated in 2012. Technically, I think it still works. It just doesn't have a lot of the newer locations. But the reason there's so many patches is so many people love using Travel Window, especially hunters. Okay. So yes, this stream and possibly the next stream, I'd like to figure out, is this code working? And if not, where is it not working and why is it not? And then once it is working, merge back in with those other things we've added. And that's going to be also annoying because this function effect added has all those things for melodic, interlude, and war speech that we'll have to wrap in there as well. Okay, so refresh effect display was doing some things that we have lost along the way. And so that is a thing to think about, is we probably didn't implement that yet. Okay, we have some notes here about ballads and anthems. Excellent. So let's look at the to-do and find something that doesn't work. Timer is not being restarted on subsequent anthems. Okay, excellent. Oh, they are being restarted. Before we couldn't really tell that because they were being drawn off the edge. So the position of the timers isn't being set correctly. Okay, let's take a look at that. Our timers dealt with in here. Yeah, okay. So what was going on in the refresh effect display to make the timers do that? So we had anthem effect place, show anthem. So let's come on in and look at show anthem. So we have an effect and we have an index. Okay, so that index is getting used for the anthem effect display and the anthem time display. I wonder if I can split right. There we go. Okay. So we're going to just get more text on the screen because that's what makes this excellent. So we have the, wait, where'd it go? Show anthem, yes. So this is what we're curious about is now that we've been replacing that with anthem added, okay, is what was happening? And the answer is obviously not. Those timers are going in the wrong place. So first of all, we have an effect, okay. We have get anthem effect position, interesting. Oh yes, in fixed mode. Yes, that makes sense. Haven't tried that out yet, but can do. Show anthem, show. Okay, if handle spaces are not, put them in the anthem row will fix. Okay, yes. So we're making use of position to insert. Obviously, something's going wrong there, so let's go ahead and add some debug. So turbine.shell.writeLine. Show anthem, and I want the effect name, but I don't recall how to get it, so we're going to go to the API. Actually, we might go to the IntelliSense here. Effect get do we know what the effect is? No, it's an any. Okay. So there's ways of annotating functions so that the IntelliSense can deal with that. And I want to say that we did that somewhere. Was it on the other branch? It might be on the other branch. Trying to remember where it was. Okay, if I search for let's see. There we go. So, we can just annotate that real quickly. Shows an anthem effect in a specific position. All right, and the param effect is what? Well, this is going to snowball but we can see that that is an effect. Excellent. Let's come on in to the LOTRO API documentation, and we have an effect. Excellent. So that's a turbine.gameplay.effect. Turbine.gameplay.effect. Well, that's disappointing. I was hoping I could use that here. Oh, I might be able to. And if that's the case, effect I think it is not complete. All right, I'll have to look into what's up with that. Oh, maybe that's okay. Oh, cool. Okay. We're going to call that probably okay. If so, the IntelliSense has told us that there's a getName function. Awesome. We'll start with that. Let's go. So let's come on in here, unload, reload, see if it works. Okay, awesome. And you know, it occurs to me that my legacy that's increasing the duration of anthems is not going to be helpful here. So we'll pull out that legendary item. Now my anthems only last for 1 minute. Great. I'm going to have to let that exhaust itself, but we'll go ahead and pop up a couple more anthems there just so we can play around with that. Now, as a downside with dealing with effects like this, the thing that we're showing that effect in is expecting an actual turbine effect. And so mocking that out with a test object, so we can just put our own effect in there, has felt more difficult than some other debug options. Fortunately, this is only a 1 minute cooldown and not like a 5 minute or an hour or whatever. So for little testing operations like this, we can just wait. Okay, Anthem War. Ah, okay. The timer's never shifted. Okay, okay. So timers are not being shifted when anthems are. So that's sort of the first problem. When we do an anthem shift, those timers aren't shifting. So the anthem time displays looks like we're looking for the specific thing to shift. But apparently this isn't how to shift the time display. Well, fair enough. What is a time display? Time display has MinstrelBuff timer control. Okay. I feel like I solved this problem when we were looking at war speech. So let's pause what we're working on. We'll go ahead and just stash that. Rework effect list stash. Awesome. And we're going to come back into refactor buff windows in main. Awesome. Okay, war speech time displays. So this is what we're really looking for. We've seen this work. Instead of trying to set objects to each other, we want to set that start time and possibly duration as well. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this off into just a little buffer I've got over on the side. And then we will come on back. Great. Apply our work, and we're done. Really? Okay. Cool. So we can see the problem with, what was it? Show anthem? No, the function that's now calling show anthem, which was anthem added. So this, sorry, anthem shift. This attempt to shift by just assigning doesn't work. Let's see. So we have new location, old location. So let's just document this function. Shifts a timer over one step. And for these parameters, we can go ahead and say it is an integer. Hopefully we can do that. Awesome. New location, index where values will be stored. And then old location, index where values will be indexed from where values will be loaded. Okay. I'm liking the idea of annotating these things, so we can just say this is an integer. Awesome. And then, I don't know, can we even do anything with that then? No. Awesome. I am not trying to switch my input, but thank you. Okay. So we saw before that my goodness, there's a cat.
It's a Casper. He's right behind you.
Hey, Casper. All right. Would you like some treats? You can get some treats on stream. Yeah? You like those? No, you just want scratches? There are treats in my hand. You don't just have to rub against them. Yeah. They're right here. What are you going to do about that? All right. What are you going to do? Treats.
Yeah. Chair next to you.
Stop drooling on my chair. Come on. No? We're still working with them on the whole treat thing.
He's being so social is pretty good though.
No? Okay. Well, they're up here if you want to try to get them.
On your leg, maybe. Oh.
He came for pets instead. All right. Okay, so we saw in the other code, when we wanted to do something like this, we were just shifting all of the timers. Fair then says, "Good boy. My 2 kittens are sitting right in front of the window, looking around outside. Greetings to your cats." Yeah, ours are starting to like to do that as well. Okay, he's eating the treats off the floor. I didn't actually want them underneath my wrist. Okay, so the idea being, for war speeches, they were just one expired and they all shifted. One expired and they all shifted. That's kind of like what we're doing here. So in this we're doing it in there. I guess we don't need a whole other function for this. But what we do need is self.anthem time display. I set start time. Self.anthem time displays. I +1 get start time. So we need that. But we also probably want to do the duration, where we can go ahead and set a duration, and we'll need a get duration here. Wow, that might be visible in my background.
It is.
Awesome. Well, there's a cat over there, and he's checking out that palm tree. Good job, Casper. We much prefer the cats using those scratching posts than any sort of furniture in here. Okay, let's go ahead and give that a try. Where instead of trying to set the object, which is obviously not working, we go ahead and just update the start time and duration from the one to the other. And you know, I thought I was going to use this function. I am not. Okay, so load up that plugin manager, unload, reload, great. And we're going to go ahead and we'll just stick a couple anthems in there. Hey, Casper. Yeah. We're waiting for timers to expire. So far, the cats have not really started mimicking us to the extent where they want to like sit on our keyboards a little bit. Kata with a little redhead, but they really haven't started doing that aggressively yet. And I think that's more of a trying to sit in her lap and failing than an actual, oh, you're using your keyboard, I also want to use your keyboard. But when they do that, we might try to put together little miniature keyboards for them to use instead, or miniature computers for them to sit in front of instead. What do you think? No? Okay, he's out. Okay, so we've lost our anthems. I wasn't actually looking to see if the timers shifted, but excellent. So we can see at least the anthem timers are going in the spot we want them to go. And if we go ahead and pop into a different stance here, we would like to be able to get another anthem out. Oh, we don't have that stuff included, do we? Haha. That's okay. Well, that's true, little redhead. Apparently I have attention for timers or for cats, but not for both. Okay, so looking at these timers, let's see them fall off here. We see the Anthem of War. Awesome. Everything shifted, everything shifted, everything shifted. Great. That's exactly what we wanted to see. So it looks like that was we're not shifting the timer correct. Farathan, our little boy wants to touch the mouse on the screen when I play LOTRO. Funny moments. Yes, that's excellent. The redhead points out we actually do have like a little bucket of water with a pump, and it's got a flower on top, and so it keeps the water moving, which they seem to like drinking out of. Farathan, right now the cat sitting in front of the screen watching you move the mouse window is great. We can throw that up as a one more viewer in the viewer count. Okay. So let's go look at fork and see what we've got. All right, we've got some to-do changes. I'm not too worried about that. To-do file changes. We're going to be deleting large swaths of that when we get a bit closer to being done. Okay, so we have, buff window show anthem. Whoops, I kept that. Okay, and shows anthem effect in specific position. You know, that turned out not to be working. That's fine. Oh, it did actually work. Added function annotation. So we'll go ahead and stage that. Awesome. But the big thing was fixing how those timers are being copied. Okay, so issues. Timer's not being restarted and timer number 4 is visible. Those were both the same problem. Bam. So, fixed how timers are, anthem timers are shifted. Okay, awesome. Were there other problems? I bet there were other problems. Fair, then I'll make the cat a new Twitch account ASAP. Awesome. That may be against terms and services. I don't know if you have to be a human to have an account. Or a certain age. Most cats aren't going to hit 18 or older. All right, we're going to go ahead and push out those changes just so that little number 3 stops bothering me. Okay, so what else was not working in this set of changes? I'm going to go ahead and close that so we can widen this a little bit. All right, we seem to have something that works. Awesome. Anthems. Yes, this was all the logic. How are extra anthems handled now? I'm interested to see how all of this works with the changes we did for the extra slots for anthems. There's a big chance of things breaking here. Don't forget to handle serious business. Yes. Is ballad... I think that is correct because of things that are in my head, so that's fine. Loading MinstrelBuff while in combat doesn't work. Buff window tries to use in-combat time display before it's initialized. Oh, well, that's not good. Let's go look at what that is. So I would actually say, in this main, the refresh effect display, we actually probably still want to call that at the very beginning. Oh, we do call it at the very beginning. Okay. Weird. All right, so in combat time display. Carly chorus, major ballad. Chromite says hello. Hello. We were just talking about you last week on Little Red Head's stream. I think who was it? Egg Arthur had made a video on your Beacon of Aoworth Hidbolt guide. So that was cool. Okay, so we have an in-combat time display. Let's see if we can reproduce the problem first of all. I'm going to need to be in combat, and so I think I'll just start myself up something easy. How about Karn Doom? That's an old favorite. Let's pop on in there. Oh, you know, in that big merge, a lot of these outputs are in there as well. So, to do, strip out right lines that crept in during in-work merge. Yeah, okay. So, MinstrelBuff is currently unloaded. The problem occurred when we were in combat. Let's see if I can get in combat without immediately killing the thing. I can. Excellent. I am not super overpowered. Okay, so when we load this, attempt to index field in combat display. Great. Exactly what we wanted to see for certain definitions of wanted. But it is nice to be able to replicate a bug that we had seen previously. The worst thing is knowing something's broken and then not being able to make it happen on your machine. Okay, so we can see Buff window line 325, attempt to index field in combat time display a null value. 325. Let's go check that out. That's buff window line 325. And that is the start combat timer, which does entering combat. Okay, where is this getting called from? Well, good news. The call came from inside the house. All right, this is set visibility. Okay, where's that coming from? All over. Great. Now, I happen to remember that it is possible to make turbine do a stack dump, but I don't remember exactly what that is. Aha. Turbine.engine has a get call stack. Well, I'm curious. Returns a string of the current call stack. Let's do it. So this call to set visibility, let's go ahead and do a turbine.shell.writeLine, and we're going to pass into it turbine.engine get call stack. Okay, so let's get into combat again. We'll load the plugin. And apparently I'm handling that wrong because I just got a bunch of empty lines. So we're going to go back and sort out why we got that wrong. Great. Okay. I wonder if that should be engine.callStack. Probably not. Oh, yes. No. Well, that seems very good. Okay. I hit the wrong button, close my plugin manager, no worries. All right, so set visibility, that's being a little hard to read because there's a lot of things that call set visibility. What we really care about is line 325. If self.inCombatTimeDisplay equals nil, then go ahead and dump the stack. And you know what, we can just return at that point. I don't even need the error. Well, that's weird. Oh, yes. Of course it did that. Okay, so if we're loading when we are not in combat, everything is fine. Let's go ahead and get into combat. And then we have a traceback. So we're going to go ahead and unload so we don't get any other text in there to distract us. So what we've got here is the list of functions that were called that brought us to the state of calling start combat timer before we had an in combat time display initialized. The idea being that that should happen very early on in the life of this window. In fact, where are we? Up here, in the function buff window start, which is a question, actually. Buff window start gets called in main in show window. I wonder if that's gonna come back and bite us. Okay, so we're in main in 36 in the constructor. Okay. We have a set check for serious business call. And that goes to 636, which calls set visibility. Okay. that's actually easily fixable because, and so here is a problem that I have with how this works, is that buff window, the constructor doesn't actually construct the window. The way MinstrelBuff works is that constructor is separate from the initializer of the window contents, which to me is not correct. In my mind, once an object is constructed, it should be ready to go. In this case, once the buff window is constructed, all the little bits and pieces for the UI of the buff window should be in place. And that's just not how it is right now. But that means we can go ahead and move this from the constructor of MinstrelBuff main, which again is not the start function, or in this case, show window, I guess. But if we go ahead and move these checks, or even, would it make sense to start the buff window another place? I don't know. It makes sense to just change everything, apparently. So if we go ahead and don't call set check for serious business until after the window exists in a reasonable state, then first of all, we can load and unload. Awesome. And next, we're just going to need to find something that puts us into combat. You know, it occurs to me that a training dummy would be very effective. Oh well.
Are you going to take you somewhere?
Let's see, where are there training dummies? I don't know if there's one in 21st Hall, but there's probably one in Bree. I remember that. Okay, so if we load this, we can see it loaded. Well, that's cool. Well, that's funny. I just did a improved cry of the chorus, and I only got 2 ballots. Well, I'm going to go ahead and unload and load. Yes, I got a third points out that there is a training dummy training hall just off from the War Fountain. I might do that. All right. Chromite says, before, I've been using your Soliloquy of Spirit tracker. I like it. I just wish there was a way to either reorder the listing or sticky or blacklist each one. For instance, I want a tank stickied and on top, and sometimes I don't want someone else in the listing, so I want to block/blacklist that temporarily. So good news, kind of, Chromite, is that if you X out one of the boxes while you are in combat, that one will not show up again, that combat. The next time you go into combat, it will, though. So there is a temporary block feature in that you just hit the X button and it stops showing. Because I had that same issue where it's like, oh, I've thrown a heal on a hunter, and I just don't really care about hunters that much, so don't show me that information. As for reordering, I definitely like the idea of being able to reorder just like, say, a mini raid or something. It felt like overkill for what was starting to be like a version 0.1 of the Soliloquy of Spirit tracker. But I could definitely see that. Actually, what I could really see is integrating the entire thing into a thing like mini raid, so that you just see the tracker embedded in mini raid itself. And that's a thought I had. Is mini raid already lets you reorder things and already has such customizable. Wait, I need a valid. Okay. Cool. I can be in combat. So that was the thing. So right now the pinning feature pins the minstrel themselves at the top of the Soliloquy tracker list, and I appreciate that's not everyone's personal preference. It was just like if I'm in the list, I want to be at the top of the list. Ginger says, this all looks interesting, but where do you get started with plugins? I have a couple answers to that, Ginger. So first of all, there is a seminal work by Garen over on the LOTRO forums titled, lovingly, I think, Writing LOTRO Lua Plugins for Noobs. And let me go ahead and just put that into chat there. I also, if you want a little bit more hand-holdy step-by-step guide, if you look at the Life Beyond the Shire website, where Little Red Head keeps a home, and it eventually comes up. Oh, come on, Bluehost. What are you doing? There we go. In here, there are LOTRO plugins. There we go. Okay. And so I would recommend checking out this basic user interfaces. Let's see. Actually, is that the one I wanted to say? Yes. Cool. This is going to walk you through the very basics of what does a basic Lua look like, what does it look like to write something out, the flexibility of you don't really need these parentheses there or these semicolons. You can find links to documentation there for the LOTRO specific stuff. You can find the link to the Writing LOTRO Lua plugins for noobs in this as well. And also it's going to go through errors, syntax errors, which are things that stop the plugin from being loaded, runtime errors, where the plugin loads, but then you click on something and then it blows up. And of course, logic errors, where it loads and all of the code runs, it just doesn't do the thing that you wanted it to do because you wrote it wrong. It's also going to talk about some basic user interface, so it's going to show you how to put a window on the screen. It's going to show you how to put a button in that window, and how to do something when you press the button. It's going to show you a label. It's going to show you how to set the text of that label. Stuff like that. So if you want some really basic, line by line, how do you make a plugin show up in LOTRO, then this might be a really user-friendly way to start. And if you already know programming and you just need to get into the LOTRO ecosystem, definitely check out the thread over here. Garen goes through all sorts of things, including lots of snippets of code, lots of nitty-gritty stuff, edge cases, all of that. So it's good stuff. Let's see. Farathan commented, Mini Raid was very customizable, but offers way too much for them. Yeah, I don't do a lot of customizing. I just, show me a grid, show me people's health, let me heal them because I'm healing the raid or whatever. Okay, Ginger doesn't know anything about programming and have nothing loaded, not even the basics. So that is a place to start. If you haven't started using plugins in LOTRO, I recommend the LOTRO Plugin Compendium by Lunar Water. It is a really nice user interface that lets you streamline the plugin installation process. So for instance, if I wanted to add Mini Raid, I just click the add button, it downloads it, extracts it, puts it where it needs to be, and we're done. Once you've done that, just remember to hit that green circle in the interface. And then we've got a mini raid. Woohoo! Yeah, so for me, the big purpose of a plugin like Mini Raid is to get people's health into the center of the screen in a nice compact format. I have a really hard time taking my eyes to the edge of the screen to see people's healths there. And so Mini Raid fixes that problem for me. Oh, Ginger, where do you find that? LOTRO Plugin Compendium can be found at the LOTRO interface page. Just search for LOTRO Plugin Compendium. And it's the LOTRO Plugin Compendium. If you're on Mac Linux, pick that one. If you're not, pick the other one. Windows. No. Compendium. There we go. Windows, that one. Otherwise, there's a Mac Linux one. Mac Linux, add that one. That being said, I think support for Mac Linux is kind of being phased out of Lord of the Rings Online, given the predominant of the player base seems to be on Windows. So you may not need anything other than the Windows one. So LOTRO Plugin Compendium, this is a third-party application. It'll just install onto your computer. If you're uncomfortable with that, you can always install plugins manually. Almost all of them have installation steps in them, but usually those are kind of annoying and can be finicky, especially if you don't know what you're doing. This lays down the files where you need them to be. And so super duper handy. Once you've got that installed, you can just add something. For instance, the travel window 2. We'll go ahead and add that in. And oops, just hit the refresh and we get travel window 2. We'll get some other stuff too. Travel window 2 is loaded, and now bam, I have a window that has all of my travel options that I currently have trained. Although not necessarily traited. You also get a little handy dandy suitcase for popping that window up and down. It's great. Travel window 2 is lovely. So, once you have installed a plugin, you can kind of see what the files are like. Tweaking an existing plugin is a great way to play around with the idea of doing plugins without being responsible yourself. Like Agartha said, a lot of stuff can be done configuring existing plugins or just tweaking an existing plugin. For instance, actually, that's a good point. If you liked using MinstrelBuff with that soliloquy tracker, I'm not going to be able to install it. I'm working on it. But you didn't want yourself to always be at the top of the list. That's probably a one-line change where you just say, don't do that instead. The trick is just figuring out where that line is. Okay, so another thing that I'm noticing, and this has always been true of MinstrelBuff, it's not just true right now, is that when we load MinstrelBuff, it does not pay attention to the current state So for instance, if I unload and reload, we're not getting a reload here until I do something. I've hit... Oh, now it's really weird. Oh, well, that's excellent. Yeah, so we should be configuring ourselves in some way based off the current state of things, ballads, anthems, whatever, and we did not get that. Now, if I come on in and not in combat, just trigger something, did we get it back? We did not. And so we're not getting those anthems. So that's the next problem that I see is, okay, loading MinstrelBuff doesn't work. Okay, so that's fixed. But now we have a new problem. Ballads/anthems should be populated in the UI. And they're not. So that's an excellent question. Why not? So refresh effect display should happen. But refresh effect display is maybe not quite so relevant anymore in how it does things. We're doing show anthem. What if we did anthem added? What if we did ballad added? What if we verified that we're doing anything in this function? So first thing, let's go ahead and again put just a basic output in here. So Ginger, sorry, that was a lot of sort of a wall of text and information. Let me know if that helped at all, or if you have more questions, throw them in the chat. So no worry. I'm just going to keep on going on with the plugin here. But yeah, if you have more thoughts, questions, concerns, whatever, yeah, toss them out there. So we're going to do a simple debug statement. So turbine.shell.writeLine. And we're going to say we're in show anthem. Kind of regret deleting this line before. And let's go ahead and concatenate in the effect get name. And also the actual index. And you know, let's do the same thing for show ballad. Oh, we don't have a show ballad. Let's do the same thing for show effect. Apparently. That's an outdated name. Awesome. And then we're going to go ahead and first get those anthems in there. So, Ginger had a question. I don't think it's a dumb question at all. Do you need to close the game to use these? No. But Lord of the Rings Online does not monitor your plugin directory. So after you've installed plugins, do remember to come into your plugin manager. You can do this with the caret menu, system, plugin manager, or you can just type in /plugins space manager. And then hit that green button. Agartha says, I think you've mentioned a plugin developer's Discord server. Is that appropriate for people just starting out? I think the level of conversation there, when it's not veered off into weird memes, is probably not helpful for someone just starting out to read. It could be a place for people to ask questions, but I think run through that. The plugins for noobs thread, run through my examples first and kind of get a sense of what questions do you actually have beyond how do I make something show up on the screen, because that has been answered, and get started with that and then come back here and be like, okay, now that I've got a window show up on the screen, how do I do X, Y, and Z? And then that might be a sort of a calmer introduction. Okay, so what we saw was we got, when we first loaded up, we saw effect removed. Why did we see effect removed? Oh no, here's the load. We saw effect removed. Okay. Oh, but we were seeing that as we were loading. Okay, show effect, show effect, show anthem, show anthem, show anthem. So those were being called. But probably not in a way that is useful. Right now, show anthem is getting called here, where we've got the get anthem effect position, or we've got the, or we're calculating the position to insert. So yeah, let's do an anthem added instead, and ballad added instead, and see if that makes sense, or see if that results in anything useful. Okay, so self.buff window, anthem added effect, and same thing down here. Okay, and for the ballads, let's go ahead and instead of show effect, which not a great name, is going to be ballad added effect. Excellent point, Egg Arthur. There are many LOTRO Discord servers out there. I think I'm in like 3 or 5 of them or something. And usually there is a plugins discussion channel on there. And often that's for how do I use this plugin. But many of us plugin developers, I think, keep an eye on those channels. I know I look at them at least once a week because I like to tell people that this is happening and they can come here and ask questions if they want. So I'll often throw something in there as well, like this is happening. But I'll also look for unanswered questions, and if I know the answer, I might chime in, or I might just say, oh, sorry, that sucks. I've never seen it before. As someone recently had a problem with 2 things not working well together. I was like, nope, that doesn't happen to me. Or at least not this one. All right, we've got some changes here. It's funny, I added mini raid, but mini raid, I think, brought in the samples. So we're going to come on over here to Documents, LOTRO Rings Online, Plugins, and we're just going to go ahead and get rid of Darfs. And we'll get rid of Travel and Turbine plugins. I'll just get rid of everything. It's fine. Do a little refresh. Great. That's much easier. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and, again, get some ballads and anthems going here. And we're going to load this up. Now, we did see Show Anthem of War getting called 1, 2, and 3. We didn't see those ballads happening. They could have expired just before I got there. But what we're not saying is anthems. So, but we're in the right place because we're not calling show anthem anymore here. So it must be being called from in here, our show anthem. Okay. So we have get anthem effect display, yeah. What's going on? All right, so we still have effect added. Huh. Well, that's exciting. I've got two different definitions here. Must have been a problem with the merge. Now, this is a thing in Lua. It does not stop you from defining the same function twice. The second one's probably going to take effect. What I don't understand is why it's like that. Do we have war speech? We do. Oh, because I merged develop in. So if it were actually working, but it's not. Okay, that's exciting. I didn't even think about those colliding like that. Okay, so we have the constructor, we have show window, great. In fact, do we have a collapse all? View. All right, toggle block comments, yes. No, I really want toggle all. Oh, no. I just want toggle blocks. Oh, well. I'm sure there's a way to do it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and collapse that down, collapse that down. So we have show window, great, hide window, get effect, effect added, there we go, effect removed, yep, effect cleared. UI locked, so options, save, get localization. A basic dump function, that also should go into the general stuff. Did I delete that? I did, okay. Move main.lua dump into general functions. Okay, get effect from call. Okay. So, Marathon, you did this already, didn't you? So I merged in the stuff with melodic interlude and war speech with the stuff I'd done for what we're working on right now. But unfortunately, I didn't make those changes consistently enough. And so some of those things are there twice. So get effect from callback is here, but it's also here. So let me go ahead and split right. So 205, awesome. And we're going to come on down here. Look at this, get effect from effect callback. Maybe make this a little wider. Oh yes, Farathan, you remember I created general functions in one of the first streams. I often have general functions available. I didn't see one for MinstrelBuffs. And I made one at the start of the stream, but then I put that into a side branch that we're not in right now. So it doesn't exist yet. Okay, so this, get effect from effect callback appears to be fine. And then the tell me more function was definitely a debug. Not a greatly named one, but so I would say this get effect from effect callback is redundant, especially because it's not even been used. So we're going to go ahead and minimize that. All right, we also have effect added, and here's where we have our war speech and melodic interlude being overwritten by something else. Inconvenient, I would say. So let's go ahead and if it's a ballad effect, okay. If it's a valid anthem effect, awesome. Otherwise, let's go ahead and throw in, manually merge these ourselves. My phone is reminding me that we're coming up on the end of a stream here. Excellent. So else if. So if it's a valid ballad, if it's a valid anthem, otherwise, if we're doing war speech timers and it's a war speech, if we're doing melodic interlude and it's a melodic interlude, awesome. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of that one. Come on down to effect removed. Now this one might just be, yep, same thing. So if valid ballad, if valid anthem, we're going to go ahead and copy in. Whoops. I hit like a page up or a page down, and that was sad. There we go, effect removed. So we're going to go ahead and copy in all of that, starting with an else if. There we go. So again, valid ballad, anthem, war speech, melodic interlude. Great. Which means we can kill that function and make this much more clear. We also had an effects cleared, and we're done with that as well. Okay, UI lock, show options, get options, save, blah, 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 don't, yes. Okay. We've caught up here. We're at refresh effect display. All right, anything else that crept in is valid ballad anthem. Good things to know. Identify position, war speech, melodic interlude, ballad coda, cry, major ballad, yellow, get buff, okay. All of that looks great. Okay, well that was fun. Oh, be careful with your merges. Okay, so obviously we're just going to unload and reload and figure out where are we. Okay, we can still add in ballads. We get anthems. Awesome. Okay, so effect added, we are calling that after anthem added. And so we're expecting to see show anthem, awesome we are. So the real question is, if we're calling anthem added when we first start up, why aren't we seeing them here? So anthem added is going to go ahead and call show anthem, which is doing something. Rocky says hello, hello back. I'm beating my head against a wall, but in a good way. Okay, we are getting called. Show anthem is getting called. We're getting called with the correct thing. Anthem of war, anthem of composure, anthem of the third age. But it is not working. So window, get anthem, set effect, set visible. All right, so get anthem effect display. We're being passed an index. That index is correct, 1, 2, or 3. So, what's going on here? Set visible is true, set effect is an effect. And we're using the same function. Refresh effect display should be very similar. We haven't substantively changed that yet. Let's come on in and shell.writeLine that we're doing hide effect index. Okay, we got hide effect 3. That's exciting. Or if there's just one. Then we get hide effect 2 and 3. Okay, so that's not getting called irregularly, but we're still not getting the show ballad, the show anthem. All right, ballad added. Ballad shift, yeah. Oh, well, ballads aren't. Well, we stopped using effect added, right? Yes. Ballad added is getting called, yes. I think we need show anthems. Yes. So show ballad? No, show effect. We have a show effect, but ballad added is no longer calling that. So we're going to go ahead and spit out ballad added and effect gets names. Yeah. All right, attempt to call a string value. Great. 456, what do I do? Right line, that. Of course. I missed my concatenation. All right, ballad healing bonus, times 2, and then a hide effect 3. So, yes, that is correct. This is so weird. What am I missing? I'm going to kick myself when I figure out what obvious thing I have missed. All right, there was a start. Is there also a stop? All right, and then we need a start. Wow, I'm seeing a bunch of stop starts. Okay, what does stop do? Ah, right. It completely destroys everything. Why would you not do that? Alright, I'm just curious, where are those calls to stop coming from and why? Alright, so stop is coming from restart, which is coming from theme changed. In function set theme index. Okay, and then we have another theme changed. But the important thing is those theme changed calls are getting called after we are trying to load the stuff into the UI. So we load it into the UI, it gets thrown away and recreated, thrown away and recreated. It's great. Theme changed is coming from set theme index, which is theme changed. Okay. And then we get it again, which is bonkers. So let's go into option window and figure out why are you doing that twice. Okay. Selected index changed equals, okay. Self.listBox. All right, theme change. I guess the real question is, do we always do this? Farthel asks, did you at any point think about rewriting it from scratch? That's I know you're answering the reason, but you think about it. I do think about, if not rewriting it from scratch, then just kind of going line by line and figuring out where would I put this if I could wave a magic wand. And so what I'm doing right now is possibly kind of the starting of that, of a MinstrelBuff 2 that is just done in this manner. And so, yeah, the next release might very well be a MinstrelBuff 2, but that would depend on me actually figuring out why this is doing this. Because I'm not opposed to how some of these things behave. I've tweaked them to be more in line with how I want to do. It's just, one of those tipping points. All right, so first things first, set theme index. I think it would be very reasonable if this thing is going to rip everything apart. Let's check to see if the theme index has changed. If the settings is not equal to value, or actually is equal to value, then return end. So at the very least, we're going to get one of these calls instead of two, I hope. So let's go ahead and do it again. Oh, well, that was cool. Okay, so put two of them on. Load. Oh, hey, it just works. Neat. But it doesn't work if I'm not in the default, I'm guessing. So if I unload it now and go ahead and put one on and load, oh, it does. Seems suspicious. All right, so we're going to go ahead and lose our bells. I'm going to unload. I'm going to reload. Oh, it just works. Oh my goodness. So this whole time, MinstrelBuff has not been loading properly if you already had stuff going because of this throw it away and rebuild it, throw it away and rebuild it architecture, which on the whole is fine, but they're loading things first and then throwing it away once or twice. So that's sort of a thing is, right, this call to refresh effect display is still kind of in the wrong place because those settings aren't done. What's up with that? Why aren't those settings? The settings should be first. Or should they? Okay, so, wait a sec. That came from option window. Option window 76. Okay. So, but the theme changed. Why did it stop there? I'm not sure. Okay, so at main, we have show window. Where are the settings loaded? I don't know. Oh well. Hey, it's great. Yes, we should take care of each other. Okay. So stop is no longer getting called twice because we are not doing that anymore. Start is we're going to go ahead and pull that. Well, actually, no, I'll leave those in there. Okay, so what we're seeing is I can go ahead and activate an anthem or two, unload, reload. We don't have the timer, which is fine because we don't know how far we are in time. But we do have the ballads and the anthems. Awesome. Okay. So, ballads and anthems should be populated in the UI. It wasn't my fault, but I should have caught this sooner. I can't believe I did not realize that was happening. So, done. We're going to go ahead and come back into our source control and figure out what's actually changed. So, ballads and anthems are populated on plugin load. Okay, so not the turbine right lines, not the start comment timer right line. Nope, that's a lot of right lines. More right lines. That's all right lines. The only thing where'd my settings go? Did I not save it? I had to have saved it. I didn't refresh in here. Okay, so that is this. And that is excellent. Also, delay setting, check for serious business until after buff window start. Great. So we have lots of debug statements there. Whoopsie. Missed change for previous commit. All right, so in main, we also have removed a bunch of, merged functionality from from effect added, removed duplicate functions. There we go. Okay, so all of that is good. What's going on here? Yes. Okay, and finally in main, we have refresh effect display should use valid added / anthem added. Awesome. But what I want to do is come on in to the code here. Refresh effect. Yeah. I want to go ahead and kill the old styles. Make it more obvious that we're replacing what's going on here. Okay. Neat. So we've kind of caught up to where we were. So Rocky says, I think the API from LOTRO is a little buggy. For example, get morale from a target. Sometimes you get a 0 back, and after a second, it returns the correct value. It's interesting you should say that. There is a corresponding visual, let's call it a glitch. If you go into combat options and you, what is the option? Vitals? No. There we go. So under UI settings, there's a selection vital display. And the reason this is interesting is that there is a momentary lag between changing to a new target and that value updating. And so I like in general, I like having this floating bar there. It saves me from my eyes, drifting to the upper areas for someone's morale. But if we come in here and we see our armored Krajan, and also if we change into a stance where I can actually attack, there we go. So we can see the armored Krajan's morale is about halfway down. So if I switch somewhere else, it starts at that same value and then updates to the value of the target. So same thing with that sentry, it starts low and then comes high. And so I don't know how much of that is a bug with the LOTRO API and how much of that is a side effect of when your target changes, there's a slight delay between when your target changes and when that updated value is available. Now, as a plugin author, we can take advantage. Oh, apparently I didn't have that deed done yet. Cool. As plugin authors, we can take advantage of knowing that that is the case in-game for the in-game display by just saying, oh, when our target changes, just start a timer and react to that half a second later. And then if target changes before then, just restart that timer. So don't actually try to deal with the target changing until things have had a chance to settle. And then half a second later, quarter second later, whatever testing shows you to be reasonable in length. Hello, Raiders! So whatever duration that takes for this bar to actually update. So in the display here, we have less than a second, right? We have 1,001, less than a second for that display to update. And so, hello Raiders, welcome to the Plugin Along stream where we're talking about plugins in Lord of the Rings Online. We were just discussing how plugins see a delayed effect where you change your target and then the value of the morale isn't immediately present. But this is actually seems to be also the case in the UI where if you have the vitals showing above a target and then you switch to someone else, you don't see the correct value right away. It takes a fraction of a second. So yeah, if you're writing a plugin and the target changes, just fire off a timer that after half a second, quarter a second, you then go and look at the morale for the target. And so Rocky, I don't know if that is helpful to you, but that is, it's not just the LOTRO API. That seems to be an underlying thing with the UI also. All right, I got 20 points. Really? Oh, did I finish everything? Let's see, I completed Orcs of Crown Doom Advance, which completed the downfall of Crown Doom. Awesome. Cool. Okay, so yeah, I don't know if that's a helpful thing to know about Rocky, but it's not just you. It's not just the LOTRO API. Okay, so we're back here, and you know what? I'm glad that people like this really streamlined version of the MinstrelBuff UI, but I really do prefer the little window with the little curly bit here. I'm going to switch back to there. Okay, so another thing we wanted to make sure we hadn't broken during this big merge is the variable width here. So if we switch on over, let's make sure we can get 4 anthems showing. Okay, the window did not resize. Awesome. So let's come on in here to our to-do. Let's see. Window did not resize when I got fourth anthem. We already know we need to do things like handling serious business, other things in refresh effect display. But ballad and remove ballads works. Anthems is working. And so we have made a lot of progress in pulling in some stuff from a couple of months ago and making sure that it is still working now. So I am excited to see this in place because that refresh effect display just felt so wasteful and just getting a little bit better way of doing it. Okay. Oh, cool. Rocky says, yeah, I'm right. I tried to be, but good to know. You're trying to solve this issue with the set once updates command. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, you can have a control that is acting like a timer. In fact, we've got actual timers here in the UI, but you can kind of abstract that out. So you just have a timer that you say, you're starting now, so it gets the current time, and you say, this is how long I want you to run for, and this is the function I want you to call when you're done, as an example. So timer.expired equals and a function, and then you can dispatch that to wherever you want it to go. And then so that object just sets once updates to true, and it just checks, is the time expired? And if it is, cool, call that function. And if it's not, do nothing. And it just, every frame update is going to say, nope, 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 no, nope, yes, stop. And then after however many milliseconds that is, 50, 100, 250, maybe 500, you get that call back from the timer, and you can do the thing that you wanted to do, but you couldn't do it right away. So I think there's possibly some built-in timer functionality in the Turbine. Let's see. Yeah, turbine timer.lua. Sorry, meant to drag it over here. Has that basic idea. Now it's saying use can fire events at regular intervals, and so it has stuff like that. Where, let's see. Update. On tick, fire, yeah, there's stuff in here. I've never tried it, but lots of plugin developers have their own homeworld version of a timer class as well. Let's see, default intro. Well, we have timer. Do we have timer manager? There we go. So there's a manager of timers. You can add timer, remove timer, and then process timers. It's going to go through each timer, and if the fire time is less than the game time, then it's going to do stuff. Awesome. So yeah, timer manager and timer come with the Turbine files. You don't have to use them, but you can. Okay. So we have strip out. We need to remember to strip out those right lines. The windows did not resize when I got the fourth anthem. Something's missing there. But also in general, the stuff that was in refresh effect display needs to be pulled into buff window probably, but needs to be distributed into places. Redhead, random question. On Treebeard, would I say any races are more predominant? You're thinking hobbits and high elves, but that's might just be your stable of characters. I'm actually on Honora right now. And so other thing that you can do. Why is it only showing me like a handful of people? Is that just how many people are not a wait. Okay. Yeah, I had a weird filter on there. Oh, I probably hit like space or something. So I think it is possible to do searches for based on any of these fields. Like if I search for just Hobbit, anyone with Hobbit in their race or in their kinship or whatever is going to show up. So we can see 15 of the 84 people online are Hobbits. But you can also just sort of give a view of that. So we have some Bjornings, dwarves, stout axes, elves. Feels like more elves than some of those other ones. High elves, lots of high elves. Feels like a lot of hobbits. I would say it actually feels like Bjornings, dwarves, and stout axes are underrepresented, and the other ones feel about even. Far than things that was a server lag and populating the list, and that could be. So I would say Bjornings, dwarves, and stout axes are underrepresented, and the other ones feel more even. Don't know if they are, but that's what it kind of looks like. But there's only 82 people on Anor right now. There might be more on Treebeard. Okay. Well, I feel like we're coming to the end here. We've made some really good progress. There's definitely some stuff to take care of here. But this is functional, so I can keep playing around with it during the week. If you've got any last-minute thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, whatnot, toss them into chat there. I'm going to take a drink and think if there's anything else that I've missed that is crucial before we sign off here today. Fairland says, thanks for today's stream. You're very welcome. I'm really excited to get some of this refactoring done. I didn't even touch the main to buff window separation thing. Like this is all still in main, it feels like, but it's getting closer. Okay, I am not seeing any last minute items coming on into chat. Oh, just Frathan saying goodnight. Yeah, well, in that case, that is everything we're going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. I do hope to see you here next week, and until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.